It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's the Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy chips and salsa.
People love chips and salsa.
Hey, welcome to another edition of the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. My name is Alice Lara, and my co-host, as always, my partner in political podcast is...
Me, Zeke Rodriguez. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
We have a really fantastic show. We kind of put it together a little bit late minute, but you'll understand why. We have, welcome back, Louis Biad. That's B-I-A-D, in case you're like, Alice, did you pronounce that right? He is a Catholic contributor. We've had him on before. He follows national politics, and the main reason we're having him on is because of recent events of yesterday and a second attempt on President Trump's life. We thought we need to devote a show to prayer for our country, for our president, for all of us and everything. So what we're going to do before we start talking to Louis is we're going to go ahead and open with prayer, and I'll give it to the man who always does the best job.
Well, I do my best. So we'll make it quick for this opening. First of all, thank you, Lord, so much for bringing us here together. And I just pray that you continue to bring amazing souls like this together so we can continue to spread your word, Lord. And I pray that the people in this world, in our communities, in our state, in our country, and around the world can find a place for you in their heart, because we need you now more than ever, Lord. And that you let people wake up to the fact that freedom was based on you, God. And we wouldn't have the freedoms that we have as a country, as a species, if it wasn't for you, God. Thank you so much again for bringing us together. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Nicely done. Thank you so much. So I could believe it, you know. I was doing some other stuff, and I get this text from a friend back in D.C. I'm like, what? Again? Another attempt on his life? Wow. So at the same time, later on, I get a text, and it's about a patriotic rosary that started up last week. And I thought, that's kind of ironic. And as I sent it to you, Louis, you knew about it, and I thought, man, we need to have Louis on to kind of help us and be the guiding force in this. So give us some quick comments about this, Louis, and what you think. My goodness.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me again. I appreciate it. I'm flattered. I bet you were, again, but at the same time, unfortunately, there was a part of you that probably was not surprised. Right?
You're right.
There was much speculation about this was going to continue until they did everything they could, the boogeyman, to prevent him from winning re-election, right? And what you saw yesterday was an effort by the Catholics for Catholics political organization. It's an organization that I write for. I'm a contributor for. Very proud to do so. They're a great group of people that stand at the intersection of politics and religion, Catholic-based. But basically what they do is they're trying to, they're not endorsed by the Catholic Church by any stretch of the imagination, but they're trying to educate and inform Catholics about how their faith should form their consciences in how they live their life, but in particular at this time in how they should vote. And they really have they've taken thus far 4 or 5 different pronged attacks. This one is effort, I should say. Attack is a negative word. But this one is a patriotic rosary led by Jesse and Anita Romero, who, if you're in the
shout out to Jesse.
Absolutely.
And
amazing,
great
man.
people.
Amazing,
Absolutely. Man. If you're familiar at all with Jesse on social media, he's a very charismatic. He's very much charismatic. He's into Catholic apologetics. He's a multiple book writer. He hosts at least 3 podcasts that I can think of. Yep. I think it's more than that. And Jesse also happens to be a former police officer in the largest diocese in the country, which is the Diocese of Los Angeles. And Jesse came about his spiritual reversion through just interacting with prisoners. And he jumped on board with Catholics for Catholics when it was born, and has kind of been an advisor and really a conscious of our efforts.
I want to just interject something real quick, Louis, because we've had Jesse on the show in Arizona, and when I lived there before too, I consider them good friends. And one cool thing that Jesse said, even the first time that Trump was running, because of course President Trump still gets a lot of criticism, but he said, Trump is, because a lot of people don't care for him. Some people are still going to vote for him, which that's the important thing. But he referred to Trump as he's a broken pencil that God is using. And I love that. I always remember that, and I use it a lot.
Yeah, God writes straight with crooked lines, right? Anybody ever says, hey, good job or whatever like that, I remember that when Christ rode into Jerusalem, he rode in on an ass. And if he can use an ass, he can use any of us, myself first along the line, to accomplish something. And what began 2 or 3 weeks ago is a patriotic rosary. They say it every Sunday, and they have different priests who lead the rosary. His wife and Anita are kind of the hosts of it, and they do the responses. It is for our country. It's not just for President Trump. It is for our country. It is for the will of God to be done. It is for a reversion to faith of some kind, preferably Catholicism, for the country. And we need that right now. As you said in your intro, we need that right now.
Yeah.
I just want to say, so if somebody wanted to subscribe to it, it's Catholics for Catholics is a YouTube channel, right?
It's a YouTube channel. There's a webpage. It's CatholicsForCatholics.com. So there's both. That's where you will find writing that they do a saint of the day. They do comments about things that the Pope has said, things that bishops have said. They're a strong proponent of Bishop Strickland of Tyler, Texas, who was removed about a year ago by the Holy Father. So that's who that's where you find me. They started with I'm trying to think what was first. It was the rally at Dodger Stadium, when the Dodgers not only invited but also celebrated and honored the scandalous cross-dressing nuns, sisters of perpetual indulgence. That's really where they gained their footing. They went on to have a rosary rally in Phoenix for some constitutional amendments to the Arizona ballot. They did one in Cincinnati, a pro-life amendment. March of this year, they had a prayer rosary rally at Mar-a-Lago. President Trump and his staff allowed us to have it there. It was just basically a prayer for the president, for his health, for his well-being, for his soul. In the prayers that if he won, that he would advance the ball forward for the country and for religion, for religious freedom. They also had they've started masses for President Trump. They started that on his birthday in late June, where anyone can have a mass said for President Trump. And then the mass card, as you know, you can get a mass card. It's sent directly to Mar-a-Lago, and the president acknowledges or knows that it's going on for him. This rosary, this patriotic rosary, is the latest iteration of our efforts to really get out and vocalize religious support for the country, for the president. And it is not a purely religious effort. It's not a purely Catholic effort. That's what we know, and that's where we're coming from. That's where we're coming from.
So there's a lot I can say about all this. I mean, the main thing is what I like Mr. Romero and like Catholics like Mr. Biad is they fully understand the spiritual battle that we are in with just our day-to-day life, and especially in politics. Like, I've been to the top here locally in New Mexico, and I've, thanks to Alice, I've met some high-level political officials too through Arizona. But when you cut through the weeds of stuff, you really start to feel and understand the spiritual warfare that's really going on behind the scenes, guys. So, and then you were saying, well, it's not necessarily for Trump, it's for the country. Well, if you remember, they're trying to get to me to get to you. They're trying to get through Trump to get to us, right? So Trump to me is like more of like an anthropomorphization of the whole world and freedom and common sense, because that's what Trump represents. Whether you like him or not, the way I see it is he just represents common sense, for mobility for the human species, for God, because this country was founded with, the principles of God. And the further we get away from that, look at what's going on, guys. This place is falling apart. It's not just America. Once they get rid of America, the rest of the world's pretty much already gone. Where else are you going to go?
Where do you go?
Where else do you go? Mm-hmm. So this is the prayer for Trump and prayer for America, prayer for the world, as you say. I think it's for the species at large is what we're dealing with right now, because they're trying to get BlackRock's worth. We just found out BlackRock is worth $11 trillion freaking dollars. Okay, and so both assassins had affiliations, commercial affiliations. They were actually filmed. That means they've been hanging out. That's like pretty deep to be in someone's commercial. And that's what it is, guys. It's a spiritual warfare. It's greed at the top. And unless we all step up and start praying and getting closer to God and start acknowledging the fact that this country would not be here had it not been for God, then we're just going to lose it all. And, who knows what happens after that? I don't know.
Yeah, Zeke, to build on your point, anybody who looked at the opening ceremony of the Olympics realizes that there is a de-Christianization of the world going on. There is a movement of highly placed, educated people who are in power to separate themselves, to separate our world from Christianity in general, from religion in general. So that shows you that it is under attack. Whether they were motivated by spiritual warfare or anything like that is irrelevant. It is happening. It's relevant, but I can't say. I don't have the ability to say that, but it is happening. And anytime we can bring attention to these things, anytime we can pull people back to some kind of faith, is a positive effort, is an effort on our part. Catholics for Catholics, C for C, does not purport to say that President Trump is perfect. Nobody's perfect. But the last time I looked, Jesus Christ nor his mother were on the ballot this year.
That's right.
So the question is, we have St. Thomas Aquinas. Pope Francis said we have an obligation to vote for our conscience, but our conscience has to be fully formed. And that's what Catholics for Catholics is trying to do, is trying to say that there is a difference in the ethic and the morality of the Democrat platform and the Republican platform. Neither are perfect, but there is a difference. There is a delta there that exists. And that delta, wherein the Republican Party, anthropomorphized by President Trump, right, versus the Democrat Party platform, personified by Kamala Harris, there is a difference there that should be acknowledged by people of faith, of all faiths, that there is a better chance that the Republican Party is going to promote religion, and even if they don't promote it, allow it. If you look at FBI, if you look at the FBI is inserting moles into the traditional Catholic community throughout the country, I'm sure, but it was highlighted in Virginia. So it's not necessarily just a promotion of faith, but just allowing the faith. The freedom of faith is one of our founding principles, like you said, for a reason.
And to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, I was having a debate with somebody last week, and because I'm a Christian guy, and like in the political realm, I'm all, God is in the Declaration of Independence 4 times. Freedom of religion is big time for me. But me personally, I'm a Christian man. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And I was debating with someone. They're like, oh, well, all the religions are basically the same. They're all saying the same thing. Ultimately, as long as you're, a Buddhist or you're this and that. I'm like, well, look, you can say that. But why do they always go after Jesus? Why do they always go after Christians? Why is it that Jesus is the only one that's championed not sacrificing children, not sacrificing human beings? And that person, a big light bulb went off in her head. I remember. She's like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, yeah. So you got to at least consider that. Why would they specifically go after Jesus and his message throughout the whole world? That's the spiritual battle that I'm talking about, guys.
That's a very good point. It's so bold, as you say, you bring the government into this, and bold. FBI was targeting Catholics, and this, as you said, it's just not about Catholics, because our Christian friends, if you're a believer, that's wonderful. I'm so happy, because more and more it's hard to even have a conversation sometimes religiously. People are uncomfortable, about that, and we shouldn't be.
And let me qualify Christian. I say a follower of Jesus Christ. That's what I mean by that.
Right.
So Catholics, I love it. It's just, but go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. You didn't interrupt me. I just was so enthused and excited about the patriotic rosary because it's so needed. And could you take a minute or two and explain, because not everybody's Catholic out there that's watching us. The rosary is a very important element of our Catholic faith. Could you just kind of explain that a little bit?
Sure. And to be clear, speaking, and not as an expert in any way, shape, or form.
We're laymen.
Sure, but of course, the Catholic Church only glorifies, it only honors, it only worships God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Trinity. That goes without saying. Now, where the Catholic Church will differentiate from other religions is its use of saints to make an appeal to God on our
Intercede.
behalf. To intercede is the word I was looking for.
I was looking forward to.
To God on our behalf. The most perfect creature ever created was the Blessed Mother, was Mary, the mother of Christ, the mother of God. And so the Catholic Church has a special devotion to her, not in the same manner that it does for God. We do not worship Mary, but we hold her in such esteem. There's a word called, it is a word, there's a definition. Catholics hold God in dulia, which is the worship of God.
Right.
They then hold judges, kings of this world. The proper form of respect for them is called latria, and I think I've got this backwards. Latria is for God. Then they've got dulia, which you would acknowledge that a judge or a president or a senator has walked in. Hyperdulia is what is the position that the Catholic Church holds the Blessed Mother. It is an extreme appreciation. It's an extreme honor because we believe she was born without the stain of original sin, the only person who ever was, the only creature that was born perfect. And so as a result of that, Saint Dominic was approached and taught a special prayer, which is the Rosary. And it is a way to honor and to ask the Blessed Mother for intercession on our behalf with her Son and with her spouse, God the Holy Trinity. It is, everybody's seen it, it's on a chain. I always carry mine. It's a habit. I always carry mine. It's 55 rosaries. It is, 53 Hail Marys. It is Our Father. It is several different prayers, none of which glorify and honor, or all of which glorify and honor, but none of which worship the Blessed Mother. But it is something that we feel is the best way that we can communicate. She is our intercessor to her Son in a very special way, because he is as much her mother, he is as much her Son now as he was on Calvary, as he was in Bethlehem. And so he is the perfect Son, so he listens to his mother. And that's why over the years, through the generations, the Catholic Church has held a very special place for the Rosary in its dogma. She was dogmatically announced to be sinless, the Immaculate Conception to have been assumed into heaven in her body and her soul, and so she is our advocate. And just like my mother on earth is my advocate, how much more so is our mother in heaven? And that's why, and that's how this got started.
You did a fantastic, beautiful job. Salute. Salute to you.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Thank you for educating me on that. And I was raised Catholic. I was baptized. My mom was like hardcore, made me go to church. The whole catechism, confirmation thing, and so just learning about that's very interesting, because I know that's spiritually motivates, a whole part of the world, right? Catholics. That's like pretty big, right? Is it more than Muslims? I think than Islam.
No, I think there's 2 or 3 trillion Catholics.
Okay.
Billion Catholics in the world, and it's slightly more than that Muslim.
On the Islam side. And so for me, when I was, going through some stuff spiritually, and I had learned about the power of fasting, prayer and fasting, with the Esther fast, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. And from what I understand, that's one of the only ways that you could ask God to intervene with, specifically with the Esther fast, saving your city when your city's about to be overcome by evil, which is what I feel like we're going through right now. I really got into that. What is the Catholic Church? How do they deal with, is the Rosary is one form of interceding? I guess you can say ethereal, engaging. How do you guys deal with fasting?
Fasting is one of the biggest tenets of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
all throughout Lent. Everybody knows about Lent,
Right.
40 days preceding Easter, where we're challenged to make some kind of a sacrifice. The Catholic Church, pre-1965, pre-1970, used to have many, many more days of prayer and fasting. That prayer, fasting, and abstinence. Abstinence is typically giving up meat, right? I will abstain from the meat of warm-blooded animals. So that's why Catholics on Friday have meatless red enchiladas, and they have beans,
right.
but they don't have red chili and pork on Fridays, right? That's why the lines for the McFish sandwich and for Cracker Barrel are so long on Fridays, because Catholics eat pancakes. They don't have pot roast. So prayer and fasting is an important, that is still used in Lent and some special holy days. But there used to be more prior to the Vatican II in 1965.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
So that to me, it raises a red flag. I feel like we should be going back into that.
It is a completely different faith.
That's a whole other show.
It is.
If we could do
Is that another show?
pre-Vatican.
Absolutely. I would invite you. In El Paso, there is a church, the Immaculate Conception in El Paso. It is run by a order of Saint Peter and Paul Church. It is the traditional Latin community.
Wow.
If you just go, just look at one thing. It is not the same mass that we experience but in a different language. It is completely a different presentation of the Last Supper and the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass. It is very different. And so in the 70s, the church went through some changes. The 60s and 70s, the church went through some changes to eliminate some of that rogation that the church still does to this day. But fasting, abstinence, and for example, my biggest vice, and I have many of them, but my biggest vice is sweets.
I'm there with you.
So through Lent, I try to give up sweets. It's a lot easier as you go along, but some Catholics will give up meat, some will give up alcohol, some will give up
Soda, I've done that.
Absolutely.
Because I'm addicted.
It's really not, well, I'm going to give up something and that's going to make me special. It is a call, especially for these 40 days which precede the passion and resurrection of Jesus, to make a sacrifice, to offer that up. Those are words that we don't hear very much now. We did when my dad was my age, offer it up on behalf of a special intention for Thanksgiving, something like that.
So yeah, that's amazing to me. I love anthropology. I love like jumping into new cultures and just kind of trying to adapt and learn. And so when you tell me about the Catholic Church is like more of the traditional way of doing things, I'm super.
But if you're pro-fasting, you're tracking. You're on the same interstate as the Catholic Church.
Well, that's probably where I got it from. But to kind of tie it in ethereally, so if people who aren't as spiritual as us say, like when I was practicing I would consider hardcore fasting. Doing the Esther fast is pretty hardcore. I wouldn't recommend it unless you're pretty healthy. Mentally, you got to be freaking strong. It's no food, no water for 3 days. And so what I kind of took from it was that when you're actually controlling your physical, your bodily needs, your sensual perception, your desires, and you're suppressing that, you're actually bypassing your bestial connection to this world, and you're focusing your energy on the ethereal, the higher, the spiritual, and thereby being more in a higher frequency than your selfish bodily desires. And so when you're in that higher frequency, you get a closer connection to God, to yourself. I battled my own personal demons more so on the day three of no food, no water. It was everything that was like I went through as a child, as an adult, that I was dealing with trauma-wise. You go right through it, and you can't just eat or drink water. You have to deal with it. So I think it's good for you, just your frequency. If you're not the most spiritual guy, like it just changes your whole mindset and the frequency and your whole attitude. And then just spiritually, you're forced to confront any kind of demons that you had to deal with in the past. So I don't know, it's powerful experience. I do plan on doing it again and getting deeper into it. Now that you talk about the Catholic Church, I'd love to learn more about how they approach that.
Yeah, a lot of groups do Exodus 90 in the Catholic Church. Exodus 90 is a religious effort to impart disciplines on yourself. It's not solely Catholic, but a lot of the guys that I know do it once or twice a year. Yeah. It is fasting, it's abstinence, it's also working out. It is less time on your cell phone, less time on social media, no TV. It's all of these things that it's what makes the difference between I'm going to work out or I'm going to go on a diet. It takes it at a different level, because if you're doing it for a purpose, for a reason, for the greater glory of God,
Yes, sir.
or for a special intention, that's what makes the difference between I'm going on a diet for 40 days or I'm going to go through Lent. And so I would encourage you to look into Exodus 90. I think you'll really
I sure
like
will.
it.
It sounds perfect for you.
Yeah,
I know you
definitely.
could do
You're in
it.
good shape. I have no doubt you could do it.
I'm super into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, look up Exodus 90. It is every day there's a reading, there are reflections, there are Bible verses. Trying to think. No hot showers, cold showers.
Yeah, I love
Wow.
cold showers.
Yeah,
Wow.
no hot showers. So it is. There's if you can do all these things and they're great for you. But spend less time on your TV, on the TV, and less time with your children.
It's life extension too.
Absolutely. But if it has a higher purpose, that's where the spirituality comes in.
I think you should really think about it, and when you do that, we can do a show about it, and you can share your experience with the audience.
I'll do it with you again.
Oh, I'm
And then
down.
we can have
I'm
bo-
super
Both
down.
of you back. That's awesome.
And for me, why I got into the Esther fast, because I know only people who are really close to me really knew this. I knew she's probably gonna hear this, but Gondara was gonna run for mayor, right? And I just did
Your
not
girlfriend Gandara?
did not want her in office at all. And
Just
I
to
was,
let you guys know, that's Councilwoman Gandara, who was on the city council here in Las Cruces. Not a fan of ours.
not a fan of ours. I'm not a fan of hers either, and she knows that. And I'm not disrespectful. I don't yell or anything. I just don't like I don't like her political career whatsoever. And I couldn't run for mayor at that time. And I just was like, we got to save the city. I knew that if she became the mayor, this place would be destroyed from the inside out. It would be like and I said the analogy last week, it'd be like a nuclear reactor of evil in the middle of the city, But, so somehow she lost, by some miracle. I don't know. I'm not taking credit, but that's my intention, was to save this. I love this city. I love this state. And I didn't want to see it go into the hands of someone that I know was not for the people. That's like the best way I can say it. But yes, I would love to do any kind of spiritual enlightenment. Like I said, as long as it's with the focus of God and bettering ourselves and our connection to God, I'm all about it.
I want to ask Louis, because you're out there, you meet a lot of people, you do a lot of writing, and I like to feel that even though our country is in troubled times, a lot of times, I always say my mom's favorite saying was, no hay mal no que bien no venga. And I kind of feel like, you know what that means, right? And I feel like this is probably an opportunity God's giving us, and we can take advantage of, to bring people back to faith, because we need it more than ever now.
Right. Yeah. Look, who are we to say what the plan, the divine providence of the Lord is, right? But if you look at all of the different covenants that the Lord has here, there was the Abrahamic covenant, there was the covenant with Noah, the covenant, the new covenant, the old. All of these things that the history of the Israelites is based on breaking their covenants with God, even though they were the chosen people. Mm-hmm. Every time they did, bad things befell them. Mm-hmm. So who knows whether this is another opportunity and a choice? I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a choice given by God to us to save our country, to save our culture, to save our religion. Kamala Harris versus Trump. I don't know that God works in such blatant ways.
Right.
But I do know that time after time, people have been given the choice and the chance to amend their ways, and have most often opted not to do that. And that's you have to look at the spiritual. Are we in the end times? Are we? Is this the last chance? I have no idea. I have no idea.
And you will not know the hour, right?
No, we won't know unless we make it to heaven.
I wanted to talk, and we are going to talk more about 40 Days for Life and what's going on there locally. We made national news about that. But since we started talking about the assassination attempt on Trump, a friend of mine who is a writer, and we've actually interviewed him on the Chips and Salsa show, Arizona. He's a very independent, and I'll just tell you real quick, we've kind of become text buddies. And a long time ago, when the COVID stuff was happening, he had a job where he's an excellent, very prolific writer, and he worked from home, I think in the Chicago area, his boss was in New York or somewhere in a big city. I may have the city wrong. And they were trying to make him take a vaccine, even though he would never leave his house. And that was a big controversy. That's why we had him on. But I just want to give you an idea of his independent thought. But after this happened yesterday, I got a text from him. And I'm just going to read it to you. He said, "This was obviously an attempt by Ukraine and deep state to kill Trump. The Ukrainian regime does not want him to be president. That alone is a good reason to vote for him." And I want to just tell you, so this is AJ, I'm going to mispronounce his name probably, Smuskiewicz. Okay, it's Polish, Smuskiewicz. He's a writer and an author, but I wanted to just share that with you because he said the main thing is that Trump will end that war, cutting off Zelensky's gravy train and upsetting, I'm using nicer words here, upsetting the military-industrial complex. Harris will escalate it to World War III, much to the delight of the warmongering neocons. So I just wanted to kind of throw, since we're a political show, and throw that out there for you guys to respond to. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, I wish I could say it as eloquently as him, but all you have
Told
to
you
do
he's a good writer.
All you have to do is look at the most recent endorsements of Kamala Harris by Liz and Dick Cheney. If you want to talk about a warmongering neocon, there is no better example than those people. They never met a war they didn't like or couldn't profit off of, and they're responsible for weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that we never found. They're responsible for the spreading of that war. They're responsible for so many places in this world that are on edge, on the brink of war, any of which could tip at any time. Hillary Clinton went in and took out Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. And so the fact that Kamala has been endorsed by the Cheneys and Trump has been endorsed by a Kennedy, it really tells you all that you need.
Great point.
If you look at who you are, I want less war, I want more peace, I want more freedom. When was the last time the government of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, going back to COVID, when was the last time any program they had left us with more freedom, more individual liberty, rather than less? And this is what, to me, this is what MAGA is about. Or now it's Make America Healthy Again. So I'm not MAGA, but MAGA is bringing in all of these ideas that are for smaller government, therefore leaving us alone, therefore building the middle class, less rancor between the upper class and the middle class and the forgotten blue collar. That the blue collar is who sacrifices most in the war. It's their sons and daughters who are sent to war. It's their taxes that go up. It is. It's not the Dick Cheneys. It's not the Joe Bidens. It's not the Hunter Bidens for sure that sacrifice anything when we go to war. They're the ones who reap the benefits of this. And the industrial military complex that we were warned about all the way back since the time of Dwight Eisenhower, I think it's come to fruition. It's true. And all you have to do is say what and which party, which candidate better reflects my views, which better stands up for me. And I think Harris and Trump are interchangeable. I think, as you see, Joe Biden was out and Harris was put right back in. They're the same policies, same everything. She may try to run away from him, but she can't. She's just another puppet led by these people. On the other hand, I think the Republican Party has changed. I think the Republican Party of George Bush and Dick Cheney is gone. And so I think that's why Trump is interchangeable. There will be a time after Trump. If you hate Trump, but like what he stands for, be patient. Hold your nose and pull the lever, because next it'll be somebody who is a little more palatable. And how do I know? Because most anybody is more palatable than Donald Trump, okay? Whether it's Vivek Ramaswamy or Ron DeSantis or J.D. Vance, whoever it is, they're interchangeable now. And if you hate Trump, just look at what he stands for. Look at the people who support him. Maybe it'll be Bobby Kennedy. Who knows? Or Tulsi Gabbard, Russell Brand.
That is so well said. And just recently, too, Bush is saying, I'm not going to endorse anyone, which I think is very interesting. So the Cheneys are all like, well, no, I'm not going to vote for Trump. We're going to vote for Harris. But Bush is keeping quiet about this. And I just want to give AJ his due. So AJ actually wrote this book, and I haven't read it yet, AJ, sorry about that. But it's Searching for Truth in the Empire of Lies, an evolution of political and societal perspectives during the decline of America and its empire. And I am going to read that book. But I thank you for that quote, and man, you did a great job with that. I appreciate that.
And so, yeah, no, that's awesome. That's a great title to the book. That sounds great. You know, the upshot that I took from the distinction that you made, where there's a side, the Democrat Party, that's and even parts of the Republican Party, they're very pro-war, which is like essentially pro-death. You know, if you're trying to go to war, you're selling arms, you're killing people in masse. And then there's the other side, the Republicans, who just want to take care of our own country and build the middle class, like you say, and live on common sense policies. What people don't understand is that Hitler could have won the war. He could have won the war, but he chose to kill people instead. He chose to kill the Jewish slaves instead of using them for, helping with the back end of the war. He used all of his resources instead of fighting the front lines to just focus on mass killing. So there is that spiritual warfare right there rearing its head, where you see people who focus on the death and people who focus on the life. And that's just a spirit that I think we've been battling here as a species for who knows how long. I mean, the Bible obviously gives us a connection and a path to dealing with that. But wow, I mean, why people don't see that stuff and why we don't learn about this stuff in our history classes is beyond me, because this is super important to understand, the motivations between the people who, were leading these wars, like Hitler. And it's such an easy word to throw out there, Hitler, but really, if you look at that and fact check me, you'll see that that's really why he lost the war.
And someday, we always keep talking about a show because you're the millennial and I'm the boomer, but I remember even in high school, I took a course, it was world history. And I'm willing to bet in today's world of public education, probably don't, as you say, don't really talk a lot about the wars and more behind why they happen and how they happen and things like that.
Well, the spiritual warfare would come about. You would see it right away. Oh, well, the people who were on this side believed in this, and that's how they ended up manifesting what they did. And the people who believed in this did this. So it's really pretty straightforward and simple if you really just do a little bit of research. People who are pro-God, pro-humanity are the most prosperous societies the world's ever seen. Namely, followers of Christ, Christians and people of Jesus. And people like, Aborigines, tribes, I talk about this all the time, they found population that go past 5,000 and there's no God involved, they start sacrificing children, start sacrificing human beings. That's just anthropologic, that's just happened throughout history. It still happens now. There's cannibalism going on in the world right now for people who haven't been, saved with a moral scaffolding yet. So whatever it is, look at the Mayans. Whatever it is, there's a spirit. When there's not God involved, when you get people, the priest class comes together, they want to sacrifice people. And that's essentially, for me, what the spiritual warfare is. And that pulls from what you were saying with people who are pro-war. That's just sacrificing people too. You're killing people senselessly. There's no reason to be killing people. We all have so much in common. But anyway, I'm going off on my freaking tangent again.
No, but it's all related. It's all related. If you look at, you mentioned child sacrifice.
No.
If you mention child sacrifice, if you talk about other moral topics that this country has recently tolerated, has recently voted into the mainstream of society, homosexual marriage, right? Which was not done at the ballot box, by the way. It was done at the Supreme Court. It's not that we're choosing these things, it's that we're having some of these things forced upon us.
True.
Okay?
Right.
But if you look at all of these things, in what way, and I shudder to think about it, but in what way, and this was in the debate the other night, where they fact-checked President Trump,
Right. Mm-hmm.
that there are no post-birth abortions going on in this country. That is, he was right, and the commentators with a political agenda corrected him. They lied.
They did lie.
Let's call it spade a spade. They lied. In Tim Walz's Minnesota alone, there were at least 6 children, babies, born, and I wrote about this in C4C, and all of the documentation, all of the literature is there. Well, there were at least 6 children born between his first year of governor and 2023. His first year of governor is 2019. There were at least 6 babies who were born from a botched abortion. And they were put aside and they were allowed to die in a cold, lonely, dark room on a table, okay? So, if that is not modern day child sacrifice to the sacrament of abortion, then I don't know what is.
It's wild. There was another governor too that had talked about. He was a lot more open about. I think it was Virginia.
Yes.
Virginia.
And he was like, "Oh, we're just gonna make him comfortable. We'll make him comfortable." You know,
Talked about the prices.
Ralph Northam of Virginia, he was on a radio program, not unlike this, and he said, well, if that happens, we'll put the child aside. This is what Trump was alluding to. We'll put the child aside, and we'll discuss that with the mother later.
And he so calmly did that. It was so
That's correct.
cold. And
Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. Google it, look it up. Trump was spot on.
he was.
He was spot on. And the lying commentators spot checked him, fact checked him there on the spot.
Yeah, fact checked him. Right. I'm so glad. And that kind of takes us in the direction because as we approach the end, not the end of our
Second
show,
half.
but the second half, we need to talk about what's going on here in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And it actually made national news. I saw it like on Little Krylon.
InfoWars talks about it almost daily right now.
Of course. And that's why we invite you, please, spread this show, tell people about us because we try to cover things that you won't hear about. Just like Louis talked about, and he has an article about it, which we're going to post. That way you can have the information for it. But here locally in Las Cruces, unfortunately, our illustrious governor, I like to call her your girlfriend, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, $10 million for a UNM, they call it, what do they call it? Like a women's healthcare reproduction facility is what it's tagged. But it is an abortion facility. And and I like to mention, I think I mentioned it last show, I don't remember. But what happened was Marcy Schmitz, she's the facilitator for 40 Days for Life to do the prayer warrior things there. She texts me the day of they're going to have a ribbon cutting for it. So she texts me in the morning, Alice, let people know so we can go down there and protest it, right? So I start to do that. Boom. A few minutes later, she says, never mind. It's supposed to be, they told us it's at 1:30 and they just did it. And I know it was on purpose. They didn't let us know because then they prevented us from being there. But we want to update you on what's going on with that. And in fact, Louis was telling me you're going to be having lunch here with Mark Cavalier. So you know a lot about this. I am already signed up to be a prayer warrior for 40 Days for Life. I'm going to be there on Wednesday mornings. And if you still want to do that, we'll let you know how you can do that. But talk to the audience a little bit about all that stuff. I mean, there's just so much going on. It's crazy.
Well, let's first define what's going on. The governor has dedicated $10 million from her discretionary funds to build an abortion clinic here in Las Cruces.
And our governor, I should mention, too, is supposed to be Catholic, right?
She is nominally Catholic, that's correct.
I like that word, nominally.
Catholic in name only, right?
There you go. Good.
What is it? It's an offshore. It's an opportunity for women, confused, hurting women from Texas, Oklahoma, to have an offshore abortion in New Mexico. Okay, and that's existed before for other things. People who wanted to gamble in Florida would go to Cuba for offshore gambling. Right?
That's right.
This is offshore abortion, is what this is. So the governor okays $10 million for an abortion facility, an abortuary here in Las Cruces. And there are many organizations, 40 Days for Life, New Mexico Alliance for Life, who stand against this, who stand bravely against this. And coincidentally, New Mexico Alliance for Life was recently just ruled a religious organization, so they had a lot of their funding slashed by the same government of New Mexico. So
very interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting. You can see where the priorities are of this governor. How would you like your legacy to be? She was for abortion, and then down a list a lot of other things. I would be worried for her. I would be worried if I were her. But New Mexico Alliance for Life tried to argue in the courts that this was, unconstitutional, that the government didn't have the right to spend this money down here. They failed. And so now they're trying other efforts to prevent this from being built. And the latest campaign is to try to convince to try to appeal to contractors and subcontractors not to have anything to do with the building of this abortion clinic. And I wish them all the luck in the world, but I don't know. I don't know that they're going to succeed, because there are enough people who will call themselves apolitical, but can't turn away the job. They can't turn away the concrete job, the framing job, the roofing job. So I don't know that they're going to succeed, but I wish them all the best, and will support them however I can.
And on that letter campaign, I don't know if I should do this. I'm going to ask you, Louis.
Yeah, it started with a petition. I pledge not to have anything to do with this. I pledge not to support it. I pledge not to do subcontract work for it, and it has evolved since then.
You're part of it. And the more recently we had on Mayra Rodriguez, she was on our show, and she was a guest speaker at St. Genevieve's. And there was a letter campaign, and what it was, I can't remember how many letters there were. So they were printed out, and then I could sign them. And essentially what you were doing is asking that company and saying, please don't be a part of this. I oppose this facility. I'm just saying this in real short terms. And I think I even have copies of it. I'm almost tempted to tell you which businesses they are, but I think it's better if we just tell people where they can go if they'd like to be a part of this, and at least let them know, because you have a choice. And they may not realize, because what I noticed too, when you read articles about this facility, it's highlighted, oh, we're going to do so many things for women. We're going to provide all these good services. And it's like the Planned Parenthood mantra, right? Yeah. We do all these good things. Oh, abortion, let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just like the abortion thing's just so crazy to me. I mean, everybody's just so ignorant. Our population is just so dumbed down. I mean, like, you got plus 20 different forms of birth control. You got abstinence. Guys got condoms. It's like, if you don't want to have a kid, you don't need to be waiting until the last day before the baby's born to freaking kill a kid, man. Like, and then the reality is those abortion clinics are not just there for a woman's right to choose. They're there harvesting the fetuses. They're very lucrative. It's from anywhere. What did she say, Mayra Rodriguez? Anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 per fetus. None of which the mother gets. She gets nothing. At least give her something. It's just like extortion. And I'm not advocating. I'm just saying, like, wow, they just make all this money off these poor girls whose bodies are permanently ruined. Typically, they get no aftercare. And then the other thing that I always talk about this too, that really blew my mind with Mayra Rodriguez, is all of the women who are trafficked sexually. Say they're engaged in sex, they get raped constantly, they get pregnant, and because of our laws, they don't need any parental consent. They can just send these girls who have been sex trafficked into the abortion clinic willy-nilly to wipe out, all the rapings that they went through. And it's just a huge black hole of evil. Once you get past the weeds, it's not just about a woman's right to choose, guys. It's not. It's way, way deeper than that. It's way more sinister than that. If that was the case, I would be talking about it. But when you look, and then it's all black babies too. The majority of babies that are aborted are black babies. Why is that the case? That makes no sense to me.
The minorities, yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
of course, I'll say that you're not telling the truth, but as Louis pointed out, just don't believe us, guys. Do some research, and you will find out.
And like I said, I think when people
things.
learn about this stuff and it becomes mainstream, and they don't, they're attacking people like me and Mayra Rodriguez right away. They, if you're pro-life, you get attacked. I don't care, whatever. But I know for a fact, because the numbers are there. Once people learn about what's really going on, they don't like it at all. So they do a good job right now burying what's really going on in those abortion clinics, and it's only going to be so long. It's the Great Awakening, right? Eventually, people are going to see what's really going on over there.
Yeah, they make it very sterile as they can. But when you look at the harsh reality, selling body parts and 8th month and 9th month abortions, it's grisly, and they try to do the best they can to sterilize it. And my body, my choice, but it ceases to be your body. In my opinion,
Conception.
At conception. But at some point, can't we agree? They say that the Republican idea is so radical. Okay, but let's reverse it and say, okay, well, can we at least agree that if a baby is born, it gets to stay alive? No, they can't. Well, that's radical. Let's agree that in the ninth month, you can't abort a baby that is viable. No, they will never accept that. They will never accept that. Okay, how about the 8th month? No, they'll never accept it. So where exactly is the radical idea? And you know what? I'm pro-life under any circumstances, but I would using the same analogy of moving the football forward that Trump uses. He's not perfect.
Right.
Let's take the little victories if we can find them.
We
If
talk
they'll
about
let
that
us.
all the time.
Walk it
Let's
back.
start about
Right.
post-abortion, post-birth. Let's talk about 9 months. Let's talk about 8 months. And let's watch that side say, absolutely not. Under no circumstances will they put any limit on abortion.
They would never do that. They don't let this conversation transpire ever, though.
And you know, I remember talking about abortion with someone, and they were adamant about woman's choice. I said, here's the deal. Could you explain and make me understand? A pregnant woman is in a car accident, okay, and loses her baby because of the accident. Something happens. You know, she has a right to go after whatever the cause was at the other person for the life of her child. Why is that okay, but abortion is fine with you? Explain that.
So the way I put it to a liberal commentator here in town was, what if a woman is mugged and she loses a baby? Okay, no, the person can be tried for
Double
the baby's
homicide,
life,
yeah.
right? What if? And I said, what if the woman was walking into an abortion clinic at the time? Would she still be tried for the second life?
Damn. That's
Right?
good. That's a good analogy.
Would the mugger still be tried for the second life?
I love that.
Right?
Stealing
And he
that.
said, I got to think about that. So
You made someone think.
It is clearly 2 lives. It's not my body, my choice. And if that means, getting back to my point, if that means that we can agree on 1 month or 6 weeks or whatever it is, my advice, my unsolicited advice to people who are not listening would be, take all the little victories that you can, save as many babies as we can.
Save as many babies.
And then worry about the perfect, but don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good enough for now. That would be my advice. And if I can bring something back to give another plug to Catholics for Catholics.
Please do.
Have you seen any memes on social media floating around with the president walking with or being shielded by St. Michael the Archangel? If you have seen those, that's something that Catholics for Catholics has been pushing since the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt. There are many billboards springing up across the country with the president being shielded by or in the presence of either the Blessed Mother Mary or St. Michael the Archangel. If you Google or go to Catholics for Catholics website and just look at St.
I know what you're talking about.
St. Michael billboard campaign, that is certainly. Look now, he's been shot at from very short distances by people who
It's
are
only 300 or 500 feet, right?
3 or 5
Yards.
Yards, excuse me, yards.
Right?
Yeah, 300 yards.
I mean, maybe I don't see the hand of God in everything. Maybe I should, but I don't. But maybe if you look at it, this guy's been shot at cumulatively by less than 1,000 yards 2 times, and he's he's survived them both.
Right.
Maybe there is a hand of God in there somewhere.
When was the last time we had a politician get 2 failed assassination attempts? Did you guys know? When's the last time a politician?
Thinking Reagan.
Twice?
Gerald Ford. They tried to assassinate him twice in a
Okay.
month, and they were weird, drugged out people. These seem to be competent,
Right.
marksmen,
Methodical.
and if
trained.
If the hand of God hasn't taken a role in these, right? The Catholics for Catholics billboard campaign is perhaps beginning to pray that he would, because the forces that don't approve of President Trump, they may not be done.
Do we have any locally of
No,
billboards?
it's in battleground states. It's in the Midwest. Specifically, it started in Pennsylvania and it's radiating out because that's where the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination.
I
need
want to
that
get
here.
a poster. We can have that.
We need that here. We need something like that here. Can we do anything like that here? With Mr. Romero or Mr. Biad? Like some kind of massive,
We'll need to talk to Juan, the
prayer,
billboard bomber,
group
about
prayer,
this.
like for the community, for this state. I mean,
Hey,
they ain't doing it in Albuquerque or Santa Fe. We should do it down here.
Before we end our show, I just want to say, so if you'd like to do, if you care about this abortion facility that's being built and you'd like to become a prayer warrior, it takes an hour a week for the 40 Days for Life. I think it starts next week, right? And you'll meet some wonderful people.
You.
You stay on the sidewalk. You don't engage with anyone. I mean, they train you well. But you can contact my buddy Marcy, and she's given me permission to give her phone number. You can go to southwest.life, go to that website, and you can sign up there. Or you can call Marcy direct. She said you can call the 915-455-1305. Real easy number, 915-455-1305. That's Marcy. And she is coordinating all the prayer warriors at that particular site, the UNM site here in Las Cruces. So I encourage you to do that. If you can't do it, maybe you know someone that can. Everybody works, but there's all kinds of different shifts. Maybe you know someone who would like to do it, and you're not by yourself. You have someone there. But it's a wonderful thing to do. I try. I've done it since I moved back here in 22, and it's awesome. It really is.
Yeah, I've done it. It's a great time. I'll do it again this year too. And yeah, you meet great people. You're surrounded by great company, and we were actually shut that clinic down, but they came back a couple years later. Now they're doing the 10 million.
You're not alone, and you undergo training before they encourage you or let you go out and do it in case you are confronted. And so you have some instruction on how to comport yourself.
I have to say this real quick story. So you guys have seen the wooden crosses that the Knights of Columbus create for the unborn.
Yeah.
So I have one, and my sister-in-law and I do it together. So this last time we had our crosses, so we took them with us. That was the first campaign that we did, because in prior ones, there's a gentleman that maybe you've seen him or heard him, and he likes to come around when we do that. And he's shouting from his car, "God loves abortion." And he says, "Look at numbers." Those are the lines that I remember. Well, this time around, we had our crosses we were carrying as we were praying. He didn't show up. In fact, we had more people that were giving us thumbs up and honking their horns. And I just think that's a cool story. And we're going to take our crosses.
Symbology is big. Symbology is huge. I mean, if you're any bit of a Q buff out there, symbology will be their downfall. And I'm not a Q-tard or anything, but there's some legitimacy to the things that they claim, and symbology is one of them. I can attest to. I've done the research on it. So that's another episode.
We're almost at the end. Louis, any closing thoughts for our audience?
One, this is kind of random, but it's very interesting. The first assassination attempt was in Pennsylvania. Democrat governor, liberal Democrat governor, who was in consideration for the vice presidential slot. This assassination attempt was in Florida, and Governor DeSantis just recently announced that the state of Florida, this is good news, will conduct its own independent investigation, independent of the FBI. So we may actually be able to get to the bottom of this thing, which will eliminate conspiracy theories, which may eliminate or may expose.
True.
What do they say? Conspiracy theory plus 6 months equal the truth. So bravo to Governor DeSantis, and you just know he's going to get to the bottom of this. He's a capable, very organized guy.
I agree. Good news. Great
It's very good news. Yeah, I heard about that too. They're going to take over the investigation. I don't trust the FBI or the CIA. I don't. No.
See, and I think there's a reasons too. He remained governor. We need strong governors like him.
We do.
So anything that we forgot to talk about or mention on today's
show? No, I think it was very powerful. This is stuff I love. I love talking about prayer, talking about fasting, bringing people together. And at the end of the day, guys, if it's just like, this is all cyclical, it's just like a movie. The bad guy wins, and at the very last minute, the good guys all come together, and then, God wins. And I feel that with Mr. Biad here, with Alice, I feel that same energy. And there's just like people, even recently, I've been hanging around people that I would have never hung out with otherwise. But the times are so crazy that we're running into each other, and we're like super helping, amazing candidates get to the top. We're super like just networking in ways I never thought possible, and that just speaks to that. Don't get too afraid. Fear is not good.
This candidate too, a great candidate. For
Mr. Kane for district attorney. That's one of them. I hung out with a very influential person that I would have never met from here in downtown Las Cruces. I won't say the business or who he is, but very influential guy. We see eye to eye on freaking everything, and I would have never met him had times not been so crazy, and his business not being attacked by all the crime for years. This guy puts up with the craziest crime ever. I go to his business, and I go there right now. There's a freaking homeless guy asking for money. If somehow or another the community still supports him, and he really wants Mr. Kane in there because he wants to have some accountability for these freaking criminals. There's no accountability at all. And so, that's what it is. We all got to come together, pray, fast, get close to God. It's just what the truth is right now, guys. It's crazy times to be alive, but I know that God and being around people like this is what feels good to me, and I know is what works.
Thank you, Louis Biad, B-I-A-D. I like to spell your name, for being here, and we'll have him back again because it's always a great show when you come.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anytime.
Wonderful.
Totally.
And it's Catholics for Catholics. Look for his writings. And remember, Sunday, I think it's 8 p.m. Eastern time, so that would be, what time here? 6 p.m. And if you miss it, that's okay. You can always go back to the YouTube and just do it right there. Play it right there. Want to take us out in prayer, Mr. Zeke?
Sure. Dear Lord, thank you again for bringing us here together. And I want to pray for the children, Lord. I feel like we don't pray enough for the children. I pray that you give us the strength and the wisdom and the guidance to do what we can to fight for these poor children that are being trafficked, the children that are in our state that are abused, and the children around the world that haven't even got a chance to find you, Lord. I pray that you keep allowing us to come together in your name, Lord, and thank you for all the blessings that you've given us to get us here together right now, Lord. Amen.
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 Thank you so much, and a quick shout out to our production people, Haley and Joey Garza, Oregon Mountain Productions. Thank you. Always a great job.
Thank you guys so much.
And have a blessed week, and thank you so much for your support, Chipsters.
Thank you guys.
Alice Lara,
Prayers to y'all.
Zeke Rodriguez, Louis Biad, our guest.
Laters.